Welcome to Wedding Day Podcast with your hosts, Sonja Babich, CEO of Iron Diamond Media, a leading wedding resource featuring 7 localized wedding brands across the country, and Dan Riggs, photography and videography expert and founder of Summit Hill Studios. Come along as they travel from state to state to connect with the most creative and well-respected professionals in the wedding industry. Every episode will arm you with the hottest new trends, wedding day tips and details, and they'll show you all the joys of planning your perfect wedding day.
Hi, I'm Jenna Cully, owner of Linen Effects Minneapolis. I bet I can guess the third thing you did after getting engaged. Number 1, you called family and friends to share the good news. Number 2, you started a Pinterest board. Number 3, you realized that you have no idea how to bring that Pinterest board to life. That's where we come in. Let the design experts at Linen Effects take your ideas and bring them into reality. We have everything, including floor-length linens, charger plates, table settings, centerpieces, candles, pretty chairs, lounge furniture sets, and more to make your event picture perfect. Go to our website at lineneffects.com to schedule your appointment today. That's lineneffects.com and see your Pinterest board come to life.
Welcome to Wedding Day Podcast. We're in Los Angeles, California today, and we have a very exciting guest on the podcast. It is Kristin Banta from Kristin Banta Events. Thanks so much for being here today.
I'm so happy to be here with you both.
Well, Kristin, you and I crossed paths in 2019. We didn't know of each other, but I was hearing you speak. And you are just so talented with design of weddings and making these amazing ideas come to life. Like you were talking about a hell and heaven wedding, and it was outstanding. But before we get into that, because of course that's like your focus, but love to hear your story, how you became Kristin Banta with Kristin Banta Events.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, it's been a wild ride of a lot of different trades. To almost say I had a kinetic career coming into owning this company and becoming an event producer. I came out of my undergraduate and I worked in theater arts, coming out of my program because I had the opportunity to learn stage management and scenic design and welding and lighting design. And so I had this great foundation to kind of loosely speak the language, you know, maybe not fluently, but conversationally, so to speak. And that really put me in a great position to start doing events. I started in fashion and nonprofits. And from there, slowly started to build a little bit of a resume that gave me this spark, this idea that there might be maybe an opening within the wedding space that was underrepresented for a less traditional wedding and a less traditional approach. So I opened this company to kind of represent that niche market within the wedding space. And from there grew this company. And of course, started in weddings, which I knew nothing about, by the way. Nothing. I'd never been a part of a wedding. I'd never been in a wedding. I wasn't married.
No way.
Nothing. I read every book cover to cover.
Of course you did.
What is a processional? What does that look like?
Yeah.
What's the difference between a Jewish processional and a non? I mean, I went through the roster of really learning what every role is. I mean, what is an escort card?
You're a textbook. What do bridesmaids mean in a textbook?
Yeah, tell us about it.
I mean, so it's crazy things that you may not know that I now know from my deep dive 25 years ago. You know, bridesmaids, this was a concept that was developed that no longer applies because it was to distract pirates from stealing the bride. So they had multiple...
No.
Yeah, so
Would they all dress the same then? Were they all in white so that you couldn't identify which was the bride?
Well, I don't know if they were in white back then necessarily, but they were all dressed like brides.
They all had leaf pants and
Leaf pants.
leaf pants, yes.
You know, the old leaf pants.
Yes. That's trending. It's coming back for 2025.
Totally.
Leaf pants.
I expect you to bring it back down.
Yeah.
I want you to.
No. It's for the women. It's for the women only.
What are we talking about?
Sonja's lost.
Strangely, I'm following.
Yes.
I don't know what that says about me. Yeah, but so I learned, you know, tons of things that most people, I think, have no reason for knowing. But, you know, interestingly enough, it kind of aided in my sort of championing the less traditional because it was like, okay, you know, you're telling me you want to have a wedding party. Why? It's okay if you do, if you don't, but like, let's talk about why are you being chased by pirates?
Yeah.
You know, because there's really...
Which is their friends that are chasing to be in the wedding.
Are you on the lam? But, you know, it's asking those questions that in sort of having a wedding, I think there's so many have tos. Like you think you have to do X, Y, and Z. And I guess the question that in learning all that I did about weddings to where I could find a way of working my way into this market, in learning all those things, it helped me to come to a place to represent our clients and represent couples getting married by asking the right questions. Why do you want to do that?
Because they think they have to, right?
Yeah,
It's always been done that way.
Exactly. Yeah. And I guess, my question is like, yeah, but is that what you want to do? Does that resonate with you? What does that say about you? If you're on the lam, then maybe that's reflective of why you should have a wedding party. But, if not, why are we doing these things? You're really passionate about it? Great. You want to wear blue? All right. That's an old school tradition. Bring it back. Keep it going. But why is the answer?
I actually, during my wedding planning meetings with my couples, like when they would do something off, not normal, like have a smaller wedding party, they wanted to see my reaction. Mm-hmm. To be like, do you accept it? What do you think? Is it, should I change it? Like they almost wanted you to be like, you can't do that.
Totally.
You gotta do what everybody else is doing. And they're like, oh, that sounds great.
Yeah, I'd say the majority of couples just want to be guided. And so it's really cool what you do, because you're saying, I'm not going to guide you. I want you to tell me what's important in your life. What can we bring out that, I love that.
For sure. Let's find out why, and then we can figure out how to best do it.
Yeah.
There's so many things that are a little bit archaic that if you think that you have to do them, it may or may not be representative of who you are as a person getting married. Maybe you don't want to be given away.
Maybe you don't want to cut the cake.
Why are we cutting it?
Why do we cut the cake?
Why are we doing that?
You know that. Why do we cut the cake?
Well, we cut the cake because cake is delicious.
Yes, and you can't eat an entire piece.
Exactly, as though I've tried. But yeah, and I think that's what's interesting about this world is to figure out how we flip the script. And, and then that leads from protocol into design. And that's where we get to tell a story in this wonderful world where we have all of these mediums at our fingertips. We can tell a story with food and beverage. We can tell a story with lighting, with decor, with sound. We have all these mediums, and it's like, okay, now let's take these things, and I get to design with all of them to create this experience where guests can attend this event and hopefully have an immersive experience into the couple.
You said it is such a key word that totally reflects that you're an artist, is medium. Because you don't hear that a lot as creative directors in the wedding industry, the word medium. And medium means like bring all sources of different textures, colors, design into something. And that just speaks volumes to me because, again, I have an artist background.
What stuck out to me was you called it an event, which is, meaning it's a wedding, sure, but we're creating this big event for people to attend, not just the traditional parts of the wedding, but you're actually creating these different cool little elements. I think that's really neat.
Well, and I don't, when I say event, I don't want to suggest that we're losing the poignancy, so to speak. We're not, if we've lost the heart of it, particularly with weddings and why we're there and what we're celebrating, we've lost something valuable. And so it's not about that, but I think it is important to remember that we are hosting an event that's celebratory of something that is a rite of passage, a coming of age, a partnership, proclamation, and all of these things are valuable, but we are treating guest to an experience. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, that's what, it takes the focus off of just the bride and groom. And when they're working with a planner like you, it says, look, we have people to entertain. This is a wedding. That's the purpose. That's why we're here. But we're also inviting all of our friends, all of our family to come in and enjoy it with us. So let's make it an enjoyable experience.
Yeah, well, and it becomes the art of being a good host, doesn't it? Right. We can't lose sight of that so much. It's like, it's her day.
Yeah.
Like, oh God,
right?
Yeah.
People forget that you are the host to your wedding day. It was a wedding, and then yes, you're celebrating your love story, but you are the host, and your parents are the host, or whoever is the host. You have to remember you are the lead again of making sure everybody who's coming is having a good time, being fed, having all the beverages, and leaving away really like, that was such a great party because you're the host. And so it goes back to, again, what kind of host do you want to be?
Yeah,
too.
Absolutely. And I think that sometimes is often lost in this process as well, where it's so much about the protocol and the to-dos and all these things. And we can't lose sight of the fact that we're hosting guests.
So tell us more about how you not set yourself apart necessarily, but you make your weddings, you make your events about the couple. Can you dig a little deeper on that?
Yeah, historically, I mean, this gets into the interesting thing, which I find fascinating of traditions and how things have generally been planned in the past. What are your colors? What's your theme? That's actually the last question I'm going to ask.
Really?
Yeah, there shouldn't be a theme. For weddings, they are the theme, so how do we ask the questions? Because, talking about poignancy, right? If we just have that, we're seeing one side of the coin. It's not. It's about humor. It's about irreverence. It's about thoughtfulness. I mean, it's about this range of different emotions that the only way we're going to get to the bottom of how to have those shine is if we ask the questions about, how did you guys meet? Sure. What are you passionate about? Where have you traveled together? What experiences have you had together? What makes you laugh? What are the things that people would say about you? Are you known for something that you're proud of? What are these things? What have you accomplished together as a couple that has bonded you together? If we can figure out those answers, then we can actually have something that's truly reflective of the couple, and we can bring out these interesting things. It's, if they're passionate about their trip to Istanbul, okay, well, great. Let's, we can find these nuances. It's not to say that becomes the Turkish wedding,
right.
Unless that's the passion, and through, if they are, well, great. And if they're really passionate about some color where they're like, this is our thing, like we only wear blue, we are known as the blue people, like, okay, then let's go,
Sorry.
Yeah.
Then sure, let's take advantage of that and let's go to town.
Hear all those about them, like their story, their interests and everything, and then do you present something to them? Is that what you do? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. We go through a pretty rigorous questionnaire that we offer them the opportunity to dive into, to share as much as they want to share. This is also about their journey, and if this is fun for them and they're into it, like, great, but there's no expectations. However, the more I can know, the more I can kind of look through this mosaic of the things that they bring to the table and figure out in that mosaic, okay, here's how this kind of comes to light. And sure, if they can share images that they're passionate about, wonderful. I don't want to see other events. I want to see something random. I want to see it could be a picture of somebody taking a picture. It could be a close-up picture of a leaf. It could be a spread in Vogue magazine they thought was interesting. Mm-hmm. Pictures from their travels. I had a client that came to us with, when I asked them this exercise, put together things that are of interest to you and you're passionate about. And they gave me probably 15 different photos of coffee cups and saucers. Mm. Because every time they travel somewhere, they take a photo of their coffee date. That was fantastic.
Yeah. So guilty. I've done that too. Yeah.
I love it.
But I haven't used it for a wedding.
I loved it. We did coasters for all the guests that were photos that were, had these photos on each of them, of each of their coffee cups that they could take away. Because I felt like that's so cool. Let's bring that out. I'm not going to have a coffee themed event, but there's a way to work that in, because obviously they were passionate about that. So let's figure out how to bring it to light.
So let's dive into this wedding that I heard you speak for the first time in this Hell in Heaven. How did that concept get delivered to you, and then execute what you created? Because it is amazing.
I'm going to guess it didn't take place at a Catholic church.
It took place in like an old historic mansion in Los Angeles. It was an interesting thing because this client originally came to me and they said, we want an angel devil theme. And I was like, I'm going to stop you there. Yeah, we don't really do themes when it comes to weddings, but I have to ask you, where's this coming from? I before I pass on this wedding, what is this? What is this about? What does this mean to you? And the one groom said of his groom, when I met him, I was in a really dark place, and he brought me into this elevated place and brought light into my life. I was like, wow, you know, that, okay, like, I guess I'm doing this wedding.
And the other one said, this guy really drags me down. He's pulling me down.
Yeah, exactly, down to the depths. Yeah, no, but I was like, let's give it some, let's give it a little soul, you know.
It was gorgeous.
Let's take it from angel devil, and let's bring this more into hell and heaven, and let's lean on literary works. You know, let's lean on the Odyssey and Sirens, and let's take this through Middle Earth and Tolkien. Let's bring this into, you know, a place that's reflective of Dante's Inferno. Yeah. And if we can weave this through and give it depth, you know, then it's not this one note like, oh, I got it, it's an angel devil theme. Like, but it was a fun one because because it was so unusual to get guests involved. So, you know, when they arrived, we had dressed the ceremony to have heaven literally reflected on one side and hell reflected on the other. And each one had a gate that you walked through, and we had shirtless angels, some with dark black wings, and the others had light, you know, white wings, and they offered balls of cotton candy, and the dark angels offered smoldering cocktails. Wow. And we let people pick hell or heaven, where do you want to go? And families split up, and you know, some people were like, I'm going to hell, I'll see you in heaven. Like, it was fantastic.
Where would you go?
Heaven.
See, that's why we work well, because I would definitely go to hell.
There's not a world in which I should go anywhere other than to follow that smoldering cocktail.
Right.
Hell.
Yes.
But that's why Kristin stood out in Minnesota, because all of us are Minnesota nice to be sharing these amazing and elaborate theme for weddings. But I love you said depth, because it was depth. It was beautiful at the same time of not being cheesy, or it was an experience and a definitely a takeaway for the couple to be like, you delivered.
Well, you know, I mean, part of it too is getting it's getting the guest buy-in, you know, and they had no idea what they were signing off on. But like once they made this, then everybody was involved and into it. And you know, we had a room that was floor to ceiling white desserts. We had an angel that walked up a golden ladder and fed people from below it. We had creatures feeding guests grapes. You know, we really had fun with it. And the you know, our client, to their credit, was they were from the theater, and everything I pitched, it was just like, I mean, this is ridiculous, but I'm going to throw it out there. What if we had an angel on a golden ladder? And they're like, yeah, let's do it. The only thing they asked for, which I thought was interesting, is they wanted a lady in mourning to silently walk each space without interacting with anyone. And I was like, that's funny. Absolutely, I will find a lady in mourning for you.
Just walking around looking sad.
Yeah, just looking sad.
Like a team member, like you were a lady.
Yeah, she was wearing a black veil. Yeah. And I thought that was hysterical. So of course, you know, you're going to get my buy-in. Absolutely.
So we have people listening to podcasts right now. And if you're listening to the podcast, we have these photos. Go back onto our YouTube and watch this, because photos of this event are going to be scrolling through there. I do have a question. We have a wide range of listeners for the podcast, and they have a budget here and a budget here.
Sure.
That budget was this high. Well.
It didn't start that high, though. I mean, it was interesting. It was a super sleeper cell where, you know, we kind of walked into this of let's get creative and let's pitch some ideas, and that it ended up mushrooming a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, that happens a lot with weddings. You know, they pick this guest count, and then they realize their budget, and then they're like, maybe I'll go down to this for a guest count, but that means I'm going to spend this because I want to spoil everybody at this guest count. Mm-hmm. So again, you bring up the what ifs, and they're like, I have to have that what if.
Sure. I didn't know that existed. I have to have it. You know, I mean, weddings are interesting. It is an emotional purchase for sure.
I think that too.
And we are there to provide the options. And if they choose to exercise those options, that's up to them. I can guide them. I can say, if you choose all these options, your budget is going to go here. But I mean, everybody's different. You may say, like, I can't live without this special chair that you've picked for me for my ceremony chairs. But somebody else may say, it doesn't really, I'm not responding to that. I would rather have the less special chair, but I want tons of flowers.
Or a unicorn.
Or a unicorn. It's funny, the year that we produced that event, it was up for an award, which was very exciting and wonderful. And we lost that. I mean, you've heard the content of that wedding, and we were very proud of it. We're like, this is not for everyone, but we're proud of it.
Yeah.
And we lost that wedding to a producer that introduced a unicorn. And I was like, well, you know what? Then they should have it.
I mean, if you could
Please.
Find a unicorn.
Yeah, I was like, you know what?
Pretty magical.
Yeah, you guys earned it.
That's a tough find.
A naked angel couldn't top a unicorn. So, yeah.
So you just actually mentioned a word that we have not heard on the podcast yet was producer. And I believe also creator. And then we have heard designer and planner. So what does producer and creator mean?
Yeah, so it usually breaks down into 4 categories. You have coordinators. Coordinators are going to be more threaded in the wedding community, where you have maybe a couple that is doing a lot of legwork themselves, but they really need somebody that knows the ins and outs of wedding and wedding protocol and where to shop for vendors. It's a guide, and a really valuable guide. And so, that's essentially how we develop the role of the coordinator. And then you have the planner. Generally, the planner has a little bit more of an influence of pulling together more of the feedback from the client. What do they, what in whatever way, maybe their approach is to find out their colors. Maybe they, are there to talk about, a band versus a DJ, but they are going to be a little bit more hands-on in the process and, reviewing the contracts and guiding at the next level. And then, obviously you have designers, and sometimes they house inventory, and sometimes they are just taking this information and creating creative decks and then decor boards and, and diagrams and all the things to guide them through the visual assets of the day. And then you have a producer that basically does everything underneath. So usually your producer is designing in-house. They have a coordination team. Usually you're looking at larger teams that have, 2 to 8 people minimum working for them. And it ends up being usually a little bit more of a firm that is fully encompassing for that end client.
That's so fascinating.
So how do our couples know what they need? How do our couples know what, are they searching for a producer, or are they searching for a coordinator?
Sometimes couples go into this process and they don't know what they need.
A lot of times they don't know.
Sure. And, sometimes it's, there's a lot of confusion about who's doing what. There are a lot of companies that sort of, sub out for design, and that may be something that is fine with the client because, it may be that's less of an important quality for them. And maybe for them, it's more about the food and beverage or, the entertainment or whatever it is. So maybe they don't need a designer. Maybe thereby they don't necessarily need a producer. I think the important thing, if you are working with a producer, is that there is a string between any of the content feedback coming from the client that is going directly into the creation of the event, because it goes straight to the producer who's designing in-house. So there's not a game of telephone, which, depending upon what the client wants, that can have value.
And if you need all 4, maybe just 2.
Totally. But
so are you the producer?
Yes, for sure.
So you do it all?
We do it all. We design in-house, and then we fulfill all of the entertainment, F&B, decor needs to support that vision.
Yeah. So one point of contact.
Yeah, but that not everybody need, sometimes it's a fly with a mallet. Sometimes you don't need that much bandwidth. Sometimes you may, there may be a couple that is really able to do a lot of the things themselves. Maybe they just need some vendor guidance, and that's enough. And they need somebody to tie up all the loose ends and walk them through the day. And that is, of value and a specialty that, that matters. So, it kind of depends upon what a couple needs, because, they all have value in different areas depending upon the bandwidth of the client.
Have you had a couple come to you where they had a vision and it was a vision that you weren't sure you could make happen, or you just didn't believe in. And what would you do in that situation? Would you try to change what they want, or would you say, I don't think we're a good fit?
It has to be a good fit for us. You know, at the end of the day, we can only take on so many projects, particularly with weddings. We only take on a handful of weddings per year. So, you know, I think for us, most of the clients that are coming to us, they're in for the experience. They want to kind of have this, they want to go on this journey with us.
Right.
And they want us to design it, and they want us to kind of create this day for them. So most of the time we don't have clients that are coming to us that are like, here's my vision, here you go, you know, do this. Because they'll kind of losing the value, I think, that we bring to the table for them.
Right.
Which, you know, everyone has to find their right coordinator, planner, designer, producer, particularly if you're working with a producer, because they are taking all of this feedback from you and churning it through their wheels and then giving you this end product. So you have to like what they do, you know?
I love that we talked about interviewing. I know couples are interviewing wedding professionals to be their team, but also the wedding professionals are also interviewing the couple that they're going to work with.
Sure.
Because you can tell, are we going to vibe or not going to vibe? Mm-hmm. I think that's a crucial thing to also point out, because sometimes I would have a tour or a meeting, I'm like, you're just not my couple.
Yeah.
You know, and it's hard. You want this, hate to say the sale, but you want to make sure that they're happy and we're happy. We're going to produce the best day ever together and enjoy each other and have fun along the ride.
Absolutely. Well, and you'd be doing them a disservice if it wasn't a match, because, you know, they get one shot at this.
Yeah. And you got to have fun and just know, like, we all vibe. And again, we talked about this before. You're with your team your whole day.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're part of my team. You're part of my wedding day. And they're going to remember us for the rest of their lives. Right? We're their legacy story. For wedding professionals, yes, we do this a little like a well-oiled machine, but it changes per couple if there's value in a relationship between one another.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. Yeah, you are going to spend a lot of time with them. I think I would rather have a little less amazing wedding day and have an amazing relationship with my entire wedding vendor team than have an incredible wedding day, but I had to hang out with people that I didn't necessarily like all day long. I mean, that would dilute the experience for me.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's why it's important to take your time selecting your perfect wedding professional. Just don't just do it just to get it done. Like, you have to really invest and believe and know that they're going to take care of you.
That first step is super important. Yeah, I mean, with a day that's this special, you should have people that really get you. You should be surrounded by your people, you know, whatever that looks like for you.
But you're a dream to have as a producer. Like, the word producer is such a great term, because you produce it all to come to life, right? They see the mood board or the visions or the discussions.
Sure.
And it's like, here, I'm giving you all the keys, drive the car, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's to, you know, the tremendous credit of those that come through our doors that are trusting us to jump in this adventure with them. You know, it does take a whole lot of trust.
So when selecting a you, or what should engaged couples look for when they're selecting the dream producer, wedding planning, designer team? What would be key factors that they should pay attention to make sure that you're a legit, or to book a legit coordinator, producer, planner?
Sure. You know, I mean, your gut has to operate first, which is, I feel like they see me. I think that's really important, you know, but from there, it's important, if you are making this investment, that you do like the portfolio of this designer, producer that you're entering into this relationship with. You know, I mean, all of our events are wildly different. Yours are. But I mean, there's still a thorough through. There's still a voice. At the end of the day, you're probably going to see patterns that are reflective of my voice as a designer, because I can't lose that. I am still seeing all these different couples still through my filter, you know? And so I think that when you're hiring a team, you need to know that the output of this team is something that you connect with even if it looks different for all the couples, it should look different for all the couples. If they're doing their couples a service, not everything should look the same, obviously. You know, there may be similarities based upon who this producer designer connects with. You know, maybe they're really interested in florals, or they're very soft, or you know, maybe they're really hard hitting and super rebellious. I mean, whatever that is, you find your people, and you know, because they're going to become your voice. And then they need to speak the languages. You know, it gets back to what we were talking about earlier, which is they don't have to be fluent in all the areas of catering and rentals and lighting and decor. I mean, they don't have to be, but they do have to be conversational.
They have to learn a little bit about a lot of things.
Yes, they do have to be conversational. We can't read minds.
No, and they need to know how to communicate with each of the vendors and suppliers that they're bringing on board with them, because they're representing you, the client, you know? So they need to know, how do we take what's in your head, run it through the filter to be your advocate, your designer, your entity, your planner, your coordinator, all these things. And then how do I push that out to those that we're bringing on board to help me do this for you? So that means that I have to know a little bit about lighting. I have to know a little bit about, you know, cuisine. I have to know about rentals. I have to know about these things. I have to know about load-in and trucking and labor and permits and all the like not sexy things. You need to know a little bit about all those.
I just laughed because I'm a videographer. And when you said I need to know a little bit about all of this, I laughed because back in Minneapolis, we have Rochelle Mazumdar, who is with Style Architects. And I was filming with her on Saturday, and I'm just doing my thing. I'm filming, right? She comes up behind me, and she looks at my camera, and she sees the monitor, and she's like, looks a little dark over there. I'm like, get out of here, Rochelle. So, you know, yeah, like, I got this. Hi, Rochelle.
Yeah, we've got it.
But yeah, you know, she is able to come and identify, you know, whether it's a little dark or not. And I think that's a great.
But then again, you're the voice of the couple. You're making sure it's being exactly what they envision, and from your angle too. Right.
Yeah. How are your couples finding you? So then you said, you know, we were talking about how it's important to find the right planner, producer, designer. Mm-hmm. Do they find you on Instagram? Are they like, where are your couples discovering your talents?
You know, it's word of mouth, and how they kind of make their way in is a little bit different from everyone. Sometimes it is a venue. Sometimes it's knowing that their friend or somebody that they know worked with us and had an experience that they want to create for themselves. You know, sometimes it's Instagram, where they happen upon us that way. It's a little bit different, you know, but we try to hover in places where we know that our people are.
Have you had weddings and then continue to work with you for future events, like baby showers?
We have. I mean, it is interesting to have those clients where you've seen the whole scope of, you know, doing something from, you know, a young age through. It also makes me feel not young, but, you know, that's okay. That's one of the great things about this is you get to sometimes have those opportunities to have, you know, a transcending rite of passage, and have those experiences throughout decades.
We've talked with photographers in the past where they've said they've filmed or they've, you know, photographed the wedding, and then they've been asked to photograph the newborn babies, and they just become the family photographer.
Cool.
And yeah, and it's, if you're only planning weddings, then you can't do that. But if you do what you do, then you can be the family event planner.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some clients where we've done events for their corporations, and we've done events for their, you know, for their kids, their mitzvahs, their weddings. We don't do a ton of social. We do more corporate. And so for us, that corporate is anything from, you know, premier after parties to various activations. We do a lot in beauty and tech, you know, so it's fun when we have that crossover, because, you know, the social is this very small category, and you get so close to people. And then when you see that, you know, so that other side of it, it is fun. It's engaging to have the experience on both sides.
It goes from like the emotional side, right? What we were saying about weddings being more emotional, and then it's like, oh, well, I know she's going to take care of me, so let's do corporate. Let's do the business parties now.
Yeah, for sure. Usually it's the other way around. Usually we may, if we're getting social, talking about where do people find you. It may be that it's somebody on some after party we did that they know us and that they, come to us for one of their social events. And it's fun when it kind of goes in that path. It's cool.
So you being a leader, of course, with creative design, what upcoming trends are you seeing in our near future for weddings and events?
Well, obviously we're in an interesting place right now because there are a lot of new focuses on wellness, on a real passion for supporting the environment. These are really curating new experiences for attendees. Sometimes with movements with, both culinary and, the food and beverage land, we're seeing sober experiences. We're seeing weed bars. We're seeing, a lot of vegan cuisine. So that's an interesting thing. And that kind of translates into, sort of the decor and design world and that we're having to be really responsible to, what we're designing with and how we're designing. I come from a place where it's not necessarily just about flowers. I love florals, but, I often equate it to like, okay, you're going to build a house. First, you're going to pick sort of the plot of land, and then you're going to build the house, and then you're going to figure out what the finishings are. What's the color of the walls? What are the floors? Then we're going to figure out how we're furnishing it and what that interior design looks like. And the last thing we're going to think about is what's on the coffee table. And I kind of think about, decor from that standpoint, which is sometimes it makes sense to have florals on your coffee table. Sometimes it's books. Sometimes it's inspired decor. It's whatever makes sense for the event. So I'm not necessarily a floral heavy designer, which can make me, a designer that our clients that are trying to be very eco-forward can relate to a little bit, because it's like, okay, how do we take something that's inspired decor instead and tell that story? So we're used to seeing it both ways. There are many events that we do that have no florals at all. It needs to make sense. We did a table that was, 300 feet of golden rope and that was appropriate for that client, but that was also a very eco-forward event. So that's one of the trends that we're seeing too. We're having to find out ways to be responsive to that, even if you are a designer that tends to really work with florals. That is the sort of now is the time that they're going to have to rethink a little bit.
Yeah, we've actually had a podcast recently about that too, which that hasn't been launched yet, which will be TBD. But that also, Kristin won Editor's Choice Award last year for, I think it was Best Real Wedding Design or Best Design for a Wedding. And it was a mirror aisle, right? And then a mirror, it was like almost like an infinity pool, but it was like an infinity like ceremony. And it was stunning. Where was that located again?
That was at an estate up north in, I want to say Thousand Oaks. It was basically at a small vineyard. And it was such a landscape of, land and vineyards, and then just this beautiful skyscape to where we thought, like, what if we did something that almost became reflective of the space and disappeared at times and then reappeared. And the mirror treatment was an interesting one. It was fun.
So that's really, I just bring your ideas to Kristin. She's got you. Well, thanks, Kristin, for sitting with us today on the Wedding Day podcast. You are just a leader with creative design in this whole new, honestly, it's a bigger topic now about creative design in the wedding industry and how important it is to have a you in their wedding day. So thank you for joining us.
It was such a pleasure. Thank you both so much for having me.
All right. Thanks for tuning in.
See you. Bye.